Hello, children. In this e-class, we will start with the second chapter of economics. The name of the chapter is Fundamental Concepts and Terminologies. First, we start with the introduction of the chapter. Now, we all know that economics studies the rational behavior of human beings. Rational behavior refers to a decision-making process that is based on making choices that result in optimum level of benefit. Over here, where a human being is able to get the optimum level of benefit, then only it is said to be a rational behavior. So, in the context of rationality, activities conducted are called economic activities. And in order to begin the study of economics as a science, it is necessary and helpful to get clarity about some frequently used concepts and basic terminologies of economics. Yes, as the name of the chapter itself says, in this chapter we will be studying about the basic terms, the basic concepts that are used in economics. So this chapter provides a clear understanding of goods, services and factors, concepts of and the difference between price and value, wealth and welfare, and trade cycle. We first start with our first topic, that is price and value. Now, normally, price and value are the words that are used interchangeably, or we can say alternatively, because for a layman both have the same meaning. But in economics, the concept of price and value are different, and it is necessary to first understand the concept of value. Value can be understood from two viewpoints, from two aspects. The very first one is from viewpoint of use, that is called use value, and the second one is from viewpoint of exchange, which is called exchange value. The first is use value. The use value is determined by the usefulness of a commodity to a consumer for her or his various needs. Or to be more simple, the satisfaction one obtains from the use of commodity is known as the use value. For example, food, water, air, sunlight, etc. have high use value for all the people in general. The second one is exchange value. When a commodity or a service is exchanged for another commodity or service, then the worth of one unit of this commodity is measured in terms of the amount of other commodity which it can exchange for. Such worth is called exchange value. Or to be more simpler, it is amount of goods and services which we may obtain in the market in exchange of a particular thing. For example, 1 kg of rice can be obtained in exchange of 1 dozen of bananas. So we can say that the value of 1 kg rice is equal to 1 dozen of bananas. Now we move on to the next one, that is the relationship between use value and exchange value. This concept we will study in context to the supply and demand. Now, if a commodity has a high use value, then it is not necessarily said to have high exchange value. But if a commodity has high exchange value, then it surely has some use value. Yes, if it has a high exchange value, more exchange value, then surely it has some utility, some use. So exchange value is determined by scarcity of a resource in relation to its need and use. As I said, over here we will be studying the topic in context to supply and demand. Now, goods are demanded if they have some use value. It is obvious that I will purchase the product, the commodity which has got some use value for me, else I won't purchase it, else I won't demand it. And if they are scarce in supply in relation to their demand, or their supply is controlled by few people, then they have a higher exchange value. Now, suppose the demand of a particular commodity is 100 units, but the supply is only 60 units, so it is obvious that its value will increase. It will have a higher exchange value. For example, precious metals, diamonds, etc. Now, on the other hand, if goods are highly useful but have unlimited supply, then they do not have exchange value or may have very low exchange value. Now, as the supply over here is in abundance, then such goods do not have exchange value or may have very low exchange value. For example, though air and sunlight have very high usefulness for life, but they do not have exchange value as their supply is abundant. Now, in earlier times, even water was a good with high use value but no exchange value. However, in present times, the availability of water is reducing, that is, its shortage is increasing in relation to its need and use by people, and so it has started commanding an exchange value. So finally, we can say that in economics, the use of the word value is normally in context of exchange value of a commodity with another commodity. So, value means the worth of one unit of a commodity in terms of units of another commodity and exchange, that I've already explained you in the terms of rice and 1 dozen bananas. Next, we move on to price. If a commodity is exchanged for money, then such monetary exchange is termed as price. Price means the exchange value, that is worth of a commodity measured in terms of units of currency. Now we move on to our next topic, that is goods and services. First, let us understand the meaning of both of them. Goods. Goods are commodities which have physical existence, which we can touch, which we can see, are called goods. In economics, they are meant to satisfy the needs of human consumption. For example, we can say shoes, mobile, etc. Now we move on to services. Commodities which are intangible or do not have a physical existence, which we cannot touch, are called services. In economics, they are meant to satisfy the needs of human life. Yes, they are meant to satisfy the needs, the requirements of a human life. Now, economics studies activities related to production, consumption, that is use and distribution of goods or services. The nature of goods and services is different, though both are important in economics. Yes, the nature is different of both of them. The meaning is different, the characteristics are different, but both are important in economics. Now over here we have the example that food is a commodity but cooking is a service. I hope you are able to understand the difference. Now, units of goods or a stock of a goods can be measured cardinally, that is numerically. We can measure the goods, the commodities in quantitative manner. But services generally cannot be measured cardinally, that is cannot be measured numerically. However, the time spent after providing a service can be measured. The impact of service in satisfaction to a human want is also abstract. Yes, the impact of service, the satisfaction that I get is abstract. For example, the need for knowledge and curiosity is satisfied by the service of education. Yes, the service of education, the services of lawyers, doctors, we can't measure it, but yes, we feel the satisfaction level. I hope I am clear with it. Now we move on to types of goods. Our next topic, types of goods. Now the various goods and services in economics can be classified as, the very first one is physical, that is tangible goods and intangible goods. Now some goods have physical existence. Yes, some goods have physical existence, means which we can see, touch. So the examples we all know are very simple and easy, that is our vehicle, mobile phone, television, pen, pencil, etc. These can be measured, whereas some goods do not have physical existence. They cannot be measured numerically, they cannot be measured cardinally, and those are called services. For example, education, medical consultancy, yes, cooking, as I give you the example of services of lawyer, etc. Now we move on to the another type, that is non-economic goods and economic goods. Now goods which do not command exchange value are called non-economic goods. It means we need not pay anything for such goods. Yes, the supply of such goods is in abundance and do not go through the economic process of production and distribution, though they are consumed. Yes, they do not go any economic process, which we have already started. To economic process it does not go through it, but it goes through only one, that is consumption. Now examples are sunlight, air, etc. Now goods which command an exchange value in the market are called economic goods. Yes, the goods for which I pay, they command the exchange value as they are scarce in supply in relation to their demand. Over here, the supply is less and the demand is more, and their supply can be held and controlled. Yes, over here the supply can be controlled. Example, water bottle. Now we move on to the next type, that is durable goods and perishable goods. Very simple and easy. Yes, the goods. We first start with the durable one. Durable goods can be used for long period of time and repeatedly. Yes, over here the shelf life, the time period is big and they can be used more than once. For example, your pen, your pencil, your stationery, TV, mobile, fridge, etc. Perishable goods cannot last for long time. Yes, they don't have a big shelf life and are consumable only once. For example, vegetables, yogurt, milk, fruits, and so on. The next is private goods and public goods. Goods are classified as private goods and public goods based on their ownership and nature of use. First, we start with the private goods. As the name itself suggests, the goods which can be possessed and owned by a private individual. The decision related to that commodity is taken by that individual only. Now, these kind of goods possess the characteristics of excludability and competitiveness. First, let us understand the meaning of these two terms. Excludability means once a good is owned and being used by one individual, another individual cannot possess and use it at the same time. For example, if I am using my cell phone, it can't be used by any other person at the same time. And individuals have to compete for the ownership of these goods. Yes, in order to own that product, there is competition. Now, for example, Mr. X purchased a mobile from the market which has competition among the buyers. It comes unto his ownership. So another person, say Mr. Y, is excluded from having the same mobile phone. An individual who pays a price gets the product and the others cannot have the same unit. Yes, as Mr. X has paid for that mobile phone, that same piece cannot be owned by any other person. Now we move on to public goods. Public goods, as the name itself suggests, can be used by many individuals at the same time. They possess the characteristics of joint demand and collective consumption. Yes, over here many people together can consume that good. Such goods are jointly demanded by many people. If one individual uses it, the other cannot be excluded from its use, and in this way they are collectively consumed. Yes, if one individual is using it, the others can also use it at the same time. Examples are public garden or garden of a housing society. They are either provided for by the government for all, or some people pay for it together. So in short, private goods are owned and used by private individuals, and public goods are owned by the government or a group of people and used collectively. Now we move on to the last type, that is consumers' goods and producers' goods. This is also very easy and simple topic, students. Goods can satisfy human wants directly or indirectly. When a consumer consumes a good and this good is capable of satisfying a particular want directly, then it is called consumer goods. Yes, over here, this kind of good, that is consumer goods, have the capability of satisfying a particular want directly. Then it is called a consumer good. These goods have passed the final stage of production. It means we need not do any kind of change in it. For example, a cooked food, jewelry, pen, etc. Now we move on to the next one, that is producers' goods. When a good is used at intermediate stage of a production of a final good, that is in the middle stage of the production of a final good, when it is purchased by a producer to produce a final good, when it is not directly consumed by the consumers, but this good helps in production of a final good, then such good is called producers' goods. Over here, such kind of goods are for the producers. Over here, they can't be directly consumed by the consumers. For example, in a textile mill, cotton is said to be a producer's good. Another example is plant or machinery for a factory, even spare parts. So we can say that goods used for production of another goods are said to be producers' goods. They satisfy human wants through the final good and not directly. They don't satisfy the want directly. Students, I hope I am clear with all our today's topics. We will continue with our chapter number 2. Till that time, take care of yourself. Thank you.